everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Estefania and in this video we're going to talk about one of the most important and requested features for Planet Zoo. Aquatic animals and birds and why they do belong in the game. I would like to join this conversation and just share my perspective on this request because I've seen that many Planet Zoo creators have shared their perspectives on this topic. So let's see if we can convince the Planet Zoo team to add these amazing animals to the game. I will share my arguments for why it would be awesome to have these animals in the game and why adding aquatic animals and birds would actually not be against any ethics or morals, and why it would actually be a contribution to wildlife conservation and education, at least in my perspective. Please know that I am fully supportive of wildlife conservation. I think that animals belong in the wild. They should be in their natural habitats and they should be protected by laws and society in general. They are part of our world's amazing biodiversity, so we should protect them. That's just to give you a quick overview of the context of where I stand on this topic. But you will see why, regardless of my opinion on this topic, I do think that aquatic animals and birds do belong in Planet Zoo. So let's dive in. First of all, let's talk about a perfect world, because we are going to dive into the ethics and morals of why aquatic animals and birds might be controversial initially in Planet Zoo. I think that in a perfect world, all animals belong in the wild. In a perfect world, there would not be a need for any zoos, any conservation programs, or any wildlife reserves around the world, because people would already know that preserving wildlife is just super important and we would not see any destruction of natural habitats that affect animals around the world. But the reality is sad, and the reality is that the world is not perfect. Given the current circumstances of habitat destruction, endangered animals, and just a lack of protection of biodiversity around the world in almost every biome, zoos do need to exist. And they play a key role in animal conservation because their effect is a long-term effect. They change people's perspectives on animals. They change children from an early age, and that can have a huge impact in the future. We can see their impact from two different perspectives, I think. First, from an educational perspective, because they have a huge educational role in society. And second, from a conservation perspective with their breeding programs and how they release animals to the wild, which should be their ultimate goal, right? So let's talk about their educational roles and how this is related to why we should have aquatic animals and birds in Planet Zoo. Zoos are usually one of the first experiences that children have with wild animals, and even some adults. Yes, they may have a pet in their house, like a hamster, a dog, a cat, but contact with actual wildlife or animals from other continents that they may not even know is something that they can only have in zoos. And that is a memorable experience. I still remember those experiences myself and how they shaped my current love of animals and my understanding of wildlife conservation. I support these initiatives, and it all started when I started learning more about wildlife, when I watched Animal Planet documentaries or National Geographic documentaries, and I started playing Zoo Tycoon and then Planet Zoo. So all of that combined, all of that education combined, shaped me into the person that I am today, that made me love and protect animals. That is why I think that this game has the potential of educating people around the world. Planet Zoo can educate us, can help us to learn more about these amazing animals, and just including aquatic animals and birds would be such an amazing educational opportunity for the community. So far, we have more than 150 animals in the game. Really, I think we have more than 170. And I personally learned a lot about them. Just reading the Zoopedia teaches you a lot about them. And talking about the Zoopedia, we have a Zoopedia podcast if you're interested in learning more about these animals. I've learned about species that I didn't even know existed. So that has been interesting, and that is something that I'm super grateful to Planet Zoo for. The game has so much potential for educational reach. I think this game should be in every classroom or every kid's room around the world. Every child should know about wild animals and conservation, and every adult should know why it is important to preserve these animals and their habitats for biodiversity. Just adding aquatic animals and birds will expand that to new animals that also need protection. These are animals that most people don't know much about. Like, aquatic animals and birds are not the most popular animals around the world. They're not always featured on wildlife documentaries. Usually we see them focusing on mammals, but it's as simple as this. If we know that they exist and we know more about them, then we will be more likely to protect them and to contribute to initiatives that help to preserve them in the wild. So knowledge is power, and here knowledge of these animals will also help us to spread the word about them and their conservation status and their needs. In the real world, I know that there is a controversy about keeping aquatic animals and birds in zoos, and I really agree with the fact that in real life, these animals should not be in zoo enclosures or in inappropriate conditions, and they should be in their natural habitats whenever possible. But we need to accept that Planet Zoo is a game. It's a simulation. It's an amazing simulation, but in reality, we're not harming or affecting any real animals. The Planet Zoo team can find a way to present these animals from a conservation point of view, like perhaps mentioning that these animals come from a rehab center, from a conservation center, and they will be released in the wild. Perhaps they can focus on that conservational aspect for these animals. But I think that there is a way to present this from a conservation point of view and from an educational point of view that everyone can appreciate. Just imagine playing Planet Zoo and learning more about these species. I'm personally not so familiar with them as I am with the species that we have so far in the game, so I would love to learn more about them and actually see them in the game as they swim or fly through their habitat to learn more from the Zoopedia. I know that implementing new functionality like aquatic animals, fully aquatic animals, and flying birds can be complex from an engineering point of view, but I do think that it would be worth it for Frontier and for the Planet Zoo team, and for the community in general, because I think that we would love it too. This would add new elements to the game. Even though I already love the amazing species that we have, this would bring so many new elements to the game. And I just want to take a moment, in case anyone from the Planet Zoo team is listening to this, thank you so much for the work that you do every day. Thank you for creating the most realistic and amazing game that we have ever seen in history of zoo management and simulation games. More than a zoo game, I really consider Planet Zoo to be an educational game. An educational game that should be in every classroom around the world. I think that adding aquatic animals and birds would just add to that. Imagine having dolphins, the manatee, the ray, jellyfish, or even fish in an aquarium. That would take everything one step further. Imagine having an owl, a macaw, a parrot, and learning more about them in, let's say, an aviary. We already have flying mechanics with the bats and walkthrough exhibits, so it would be taking things one step further and making like an aviary with specific height or volume, I think, and the birds would just fly around like butterflies. So I think that there are technical ways to implement this, and ethically, as a wildlife and conservation supporter, I do think that this would be amazing because, again, it's a game. So I joined the request made by other amazing Planet Zoo creators that I've watched and followed. Their channels are super inspirational, and they were an inspiration for starting this channel. They have raised their voice and talked about this possibility for the game, and I just want to know that I've supported 100%. I hope that Frontier decides to include them in the near future. And I know that there have been discussions of the potential of Planet Zoo 2, but if we could just have the basic mechanics of aquatic animals and birds in Planet Zoo 1, that would be awesome. Great, so let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with having aquatic animals or birds in Planet Zoo? Would you like to learn more about these animals? When would you like them to be added to the game? If I could choose, I would definitely have them as soon as possible. That is my contribution to this request. I hope you found that helpful, and I look forward to reading your comments. I will see you in the next video.